One finds, in the more untamed corners of the world, places where beauty and dread walk hand in hand. Minnamurra, with its emerald canopy and the gentle murmur of its river, is precisely such a place. It possesses a wild, almost prehistoric charm. Sunlight dapples through the colossal ferns and ancient figs, painting the forest floor in shifting mosaics of light and shadow. Yet beneath this idyllic surface, a chilling notoriety clings to a particular stretch of road. They call it the Bloody Mile. It is a name whispered with a certain gravity, a name that carries the weight of stories best left untold after dusk. For those of us accustomed to the manicured lawns and predictable horizons of English estates, this raw, untamed landscape holds a terrifying allure, a sense that nature itself keeps secrets. The road is not grand. It is a simple, winding path carving its way through the dense Australian bushland. By day, it is deceptively peaceful. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth and eucalyptus, punctuated by the raucous calls of kookaburras. One might imagine it the perfect setting for a leisurely drive, a gentle escape from the clamour of modern life. But as the sun dips below the escarpment, the atmosphere shifts. The shadows lengthen and deepen, merging into an impenetrable darkness that seems to swallow the light whole. The familiar sounds of the forest fade, replaced by an unnerving silence. It is then that the road's true character emerges, and one feels the prickle of unease, the sense of being watched by unseen eyes from the deep, dark woods. My late husband, a man of impeccable breeding and steadfast rationality, would have scoffed at such notions. He would have called it fanciful, the product of an overactive imagination. Yet even he would have found it difficult to dismiss the sheer volume of tales that have sprung from this unassuming stretch of tarmac. The local folk, people whose families have lived in the shadow of the escarpment for generations, speak of it with a hushed reverence. They trade stories of strange lights, of sudden, inexplicable chills, and of a profound sense of sorrow that seems to permeate the very air. These are not mere ghost stories told for entertainment. They are cautionary tales, warnings woven into the fabric of the community's history. The Bloody Mile earned its grim moniker not through a single tragic event, but through a slow, creeping accumulation of sorrow and mystery. It is a place where lives have ended abruptly, without reason or explanation. The official reports, when they exist at all, are often thin and unsatisfying, filled with jargon that obscures more than it reveals. They speak of accidents, of misadventure, of tragic, isolated incidents. But when one lines them up, one after another, a disturbing pattern begins to take shape. It is a pattern of death that defies coincidence, a litany of loss that has transformed this quiet country lane into a place of pilgrimage for the curious and the grieving alike, all searching for answers that the beautiful, menacing landscape refuses to yield. The litany of the lost is a long and chilling one. It began subtly, as these things often do. A lone motorist found in his vehicle, the engine cold, with no apparent cause of death. The authorities were baffled. There were no signs of a struggle, no evidence of foul play, no medical reason for a healthy young man to simply cease to be. It was recorded as a tragic anomaly, a one-off event that, while heartbreaking, was ultimately inexplicable. The community mourned, whispered, and eventually moved on. But the mile was not finished. It was merely the opening chapter in a story that would grow darker with each passing year, each new victim adding another layer to the burgeoning mystery. Then came the others, a somber procession of souls claimed by the road. One remembers the story of the young couple, their picnic basket still sitting on a blanket nearby, found lifeless in their parked car. They looked as though they had simply fallen asleep, a peaceful if unsettling tableau. But the post-mortem examinations revealed nothing. No toxins, no trauma, nothing to explain how two vibrant lives could be extinguished so silently. The tales became more frequent. Walkers who set out for a pleasant afternoon stroll, only to be discovered days later, having succumbed to some unseen, unknown force just meters from the path. Each case was a fresh wound for the small community, a new puzzle for the bewildered constabulary. The sheer variety of the incidents is what truly chills the blood. It was not one type of accident, repeated. It was a macabre collection of endings. There was the motorcyclist, an experienced rider, found beside his undamaged bike, as if he had simply stepped off and laid down to die. There was the historian, a woman who had come specifically to investigate the legends of the mile, found slumped over her research notes in her vehicle. The irony was not lost on anyone. It was as if the road itself was a predator, adapting its methods, choosing its victims with a terrifying and inscrutable logic. The official explanations grew ever more strained, citing everything from freak medical events to environmental anomalies. These were not statistics on a page. They were people. They were sons, daughters, husbands, and wives. Each death left a gaping hole in the fabric of the community, a void filled with unanswered questions and a growing sense of dread. The stories were passed down, becoming local lore, each retelling adding to the mystique and the fear. The Bloody Mile was no longer just a road. It had become a character in the local drama, a silent, brooding antagonist whose motives remained utterly opaque. The grief of the families was compounded by the lack of closure, a permanent state of not knowing that is, in its own way, a unique form of torture. In the absence of concrete answers, human nature dictates that we must create our own. And so, theories began to sprout from the fertile ground of fear and speculation. The most primal of these, and perhaps the most persistent, speaks of the land itself. The local indigenous people have stories that stretch back long before the road was ever carved into the landscape. They speak of it as a place of immense power, a sacred site that was disturbed by the coming of the settlers. Some say it is a sorry place, a location imbued with ancient grief or a lingering curse, and that the land is now simply reclaiming what was taken from it, punishing those who trespass upon its hallowed ground. Others turn their gaze from the supernatural to the scientific, though their theories are no less unsettling. Whispers of a geological anomaly, a rare and undetected phenomenon, circulate in hushed tones. Could there be a fissure in the earth beneath the road, one that periodically releases a pocket of odorless, colourless gas, something like carbon monoxide or methane? A silent, invisible killer that seeps from the ground, incapacitates its victims, and then dissipates without a trace, leaving behind no evidence for investigators to find. It is a terrifying thought that the very air one breathes in this beautiful place could, at any moment, become a deadly poison. It would explain the peaceful appearance of the victims, as if they had simply drifted off to sleep. Of course, where there is mystery, there is always the suggestion of human malevolence. A more sinister theory posits the existence of a person, or perhaps a group of people, using the road's reputation as a cover for their nefarious deeds. A phantom killer, a cunning and patient predator who knows the area intimately and is able to commit the perfect, untraceable crime. This theory, while compelling in a grim sort of way, raises more questions than it answers. How could one person be responsible for such a wide variety of incidents over so many years? And what could possibly be the motive for such random, senseless acts of cruelty? The idea of a human monster is, for many, even more frightening than that of a vengeful spirit. Then there are the more outlandish tales, the kind one dismisses in the daylight but which creep back into the mind as darkness falls. Stories of strange, ethereal lights seen dancing between the trees, of shadowy figures glimpsed at the edge of one's vision, of disembodied voices carried on the wind. Some even speak of a creature, a local cryptid unknown to science that haunts the dense bushland. These are the stories that have transformed the Bloody Mile from a local tragedy into a national legend. They are tales born of fear, of grief, and of the profound human need to find a reason for the unreasonable, an explanation for the inexplicable. One might expect, given the unnerving frequency of these events, a robust and transparent investigation from those in charge. Yet, what has consistently defined the official response is a frustrating and almost impenetrable wall of silence. The local constabulary, fine people in their own right I'm sure, have always appeared out of their depth. They conduct their preliminary inquiries, fill out their reports, and dutifully recite the official line, "No suspicious circumstances." It is a phrase that has become a grim refrain, a mantra of dismissal that offers no comfort to the grieving and only serves to deepen the suspicions of the community. It feels less like a conclusion and more like an admission of defeat. Over the years, journalists and amateur sleuths have attempted to prise open the case files through freedom of information requests, hoping to find some overlooked clue or hidden detail. Their efforts have been met with bureaucratic inertia and redacted documents. Sections are blacked out, pages are withheld, and the official narrative remains stubbornly opaque. This reticence has, perhaps inevitably, fueled a host of conspiracy theories. Some whisper that the authorities know more than they are letting on, that they are covering up something so terrible or so strange that they believe the public could not handle the truth. Is it a matter of national security, or perhaps an environmental secret they are desperate to protect? This official silence has created a vacuum, and it is a vacuum that has been filled by speculation and fear. The lack of a clear, authoritative voice has allowed the whispers and legends to grow into a roar. Every new theory, no matter how outlandish, gains a degree of credibility when the alternative is a stony silence from the very people tasked with providing answers. It is a peculiar sort of neglect. By refusing to engage openly with the mystery, the authorities have inadvertently become its custodians, their silence acting as a greenhouse in which the darkest of theories can flourish and grow, twisting the narrative into something far more monstrous than the truth might ever be. One must wonder at the cumulative effect of this on the officers themselves. To be called time and again to the same stretch of road, to witness the same inexplicable scenes of tragedy, must take a heavy toll. Do they truly believe the official line of unrelated incidents? Or do they, in the quiet moments of a long night shift, share the same fears as the local residents? Their public stoicism may mask a private bewilderment, a professional frustration at being faced with a puzzle that has no solution. Their silence might not be a conspiracy, but rather the quiet, resigned posture of men and women who have stared into an abyss and found it staring back, utterly and completely blank. The Bloody Mile endures, a scar on the beautiful face of the Minnamurra landscape. Its legacy is not written in history books or official records, but is etched into the collective memory of the community. It is a story told in pubs and on front porches, a cautionary tale for new generations. The road has become more than a place. It is a symbol of the unknown, a reminder that there are corners of our world that defy easy explanation. It represents the unsettling idea that for all our science and all our logic, we remain at the mercy of forces we may never comprehend. It is a testament to the power of a story, a narrative that has grown far beyond the sum of its tragic parts. What is it about such mysteries that captures our imagination so completely? Perhaps it is the challenge they pose to our sense of order. We live in an age of information where answers are supposed to be just a click away. We expect resolution, a story without an ending, a crime without a culprit, a death without a cause. These things are deeply unsettling. They violate the narrative rules by which we structure our understanding of the world. The Bloody Mile is a stark reminder that not all puzzles have solutions, and not all questions have answers. It forces us to confront the uncomfortable reality of the unknown. The passage of time has done little to dull the mile's reputation. If anything, it has burnished it. The lack of a resolution has allowed the legend to solidify, to become as permanent a feature of the landscape as the ancient trees that line the road. New visitors come, drawn by the documentary and the chilling stories, hoping to feel a thrill or perhaps to solve the puzzle that has stumped everyone else. They leave with little more than a sense of unease and a story to tell. The mile continues to keep its secrets, its silence as profound and unyielding as the day the first victim was found. And so, the question remains, hanging in the humid air of the valley like the morning mist. Why does this place hold its secrets so tightly? Are the deaths the work of a phantom killer, a natural anomaly, or something far, far stranger, a force that lies beyond our mortal comprehension? Perhaps the true mystery is not what happened on that lonely stretch of road, but why we feel such a profound need to know. What does it say about us that we are so drawn to the darkness that lurks just beyond the edge of the light?